How would you feel if you had to eat a deceased family member or relative to survive? Something similar happened in a plane crash in 1972. Today's story is quite similar, where people not only had to eat a relative to survive, but they also had to endure minus 30 degrees Celsius cold, snowstorms, and hunger. Despite all this, how did these passengers manage to stay alive for 70 days? Let's find out in today's video.
Plane crash in the Chilean Andes.
This aircraft was cruising.
Deeply shocked.
This incident took place on October 12, 1972, when a chartered plane departed from Uruguay in South America for Santiago, the capital of Chile, which was a 3-hour journey. On board were young rugby players. The plane carried a total of 45 people, including the players' friends and family members. But they were all unaware that this 3-hour journey was going to lead them into many kinds of difficulty. Normally, a plane traveling from Uruguay to Santiago has to pass through the Andes, the world's longest mountain range, where some of the tallest mountains in the world, after the Himalayas, are found. The chartered plane took off from Uruguay to Santiago, but due to a storm in the mountains that day, the pilots decided to stop the plane in Mendoza, Argentina, and spend the night there. The next day, on October 13th, the pilots ensured that the weather had cleared, and then they took off again at 2:18 p.m. About an hour later, the plane was very close to Santiago, and the pilots began to gradually descend. Suddenly, thick clouds surrounded the plane, and nothing was visible outside. The plane started to shake. The passengers inside assumed it was just due to the bad weather, but then all the emergency lights and alarms went off. Before anyone could understand what was happening, the pilots in the cabin noticed that the clouds were slowly clearing. Suddenly, they saw another massive rock in front of them. The pilots tried with all their might to pull the plane back up, but by then it was too late. The rear part of the plane broke off with a loud explosion. Some of the back seats, as if they were birds, flew into the air, and the 3 passengers seated on them were carried away along with them. The aircraft was still in the air when suddenly the left wing broke off with a sharp noise. It felt as if a giant pair of scissors was cutting through the plane. Several passengers were swept away into the air, along with the wing, and disappeared. Now, only the front part of the plane remained, which ultimately crashed into a glacier. The plane was still descending at a speed of 350 kilometers per hour. After descending approximately 700 meters, with a final impact, the plane's seats were torn apart and ejected, and the cockpit was completely destroyed in the crash. Both pilots were killed instantly in the impact. Out of the 45 passengers, 7 people simply disappeared, and 5 were killed instantly. Among the remaining 33 survivors, some had metal rods pierced into their bodies. One person's leg was completely severed, and most others were severely injured. These people were now stranded in an unknown location at an altitude of 3,570 meters, with no outside world aware of where Flight 571 was or in what condition. Friends, this was just the beginning of their harrowing story.